video, I want to take a few minutes to introduce you to some of the things you can do with the tone curve. So let's open up the tone curve panel so we can begin to view and have a look at some of the different controls. And here it is over here. I'm going to click this little triangle to open up the panel. Now the tone curve panel allows us to modify both the exposure and the colour of a photograph. And in a sense it gives us the ability to change the exposure and the colour in a similar way to working in the basic panel. It's just that the tone curve can be a little bit more advanced. Now if you've worked with curves in Photoshop, you'll recognise the dialogue here because it works in a very similar way. Here you can see the graph at the back. This represents the tonal values that we've got in our image. And we've got this line here, and this represents the current tone that we have in the image. Now we can change these values in a number of different ways. If we click on this line, we can add a point. And if we click and drag up, we'll lighten the image. And if we drag down, we'll darken the image. Now we can also add more than one point. For example, we could have another point up here to control the highlights, or one down at the bottom here to control the shadow areas. Now if you want to see a before and after, press the # key, and that'll give you a before and after view of what you've done to see this adjustment. So let's add a couple of extra points. We'll click and add one to the highlights, and we'll click and add one to the shadows, and we can make changes to these all individually to come up with a very customized tone curve to affect our image. Now if you want to remove any of these points, just click on it and drag it off the graph. So I'll drag all these off to get us back to our start position. Now another way to access or work with the curve is by using this little doohickey up here, and this is the targeted adjustment tool. What we do, we'll click on it to select it, and then we place the cursor over a tone in the image that you want to darken or lighten, and you click on it and you drag it down to darken or drag it up to lighten. You can see the effect that's having on the curve. But we're being specific now in targeting the adjustment to a specific area. So here we're working in quite the highlights, we're going to a darker area. You'll see we've put one now where we're changing the shadows. Okay, so I'll just drag them off the graph to reset to start position. Now you'll see that if I say let's do an adjustment up here in the highlight, so if I click and drag that down, you can see that it's affecting the rest of the curve as well. So we're actually darkening the shadows as well, and we may not want that. So what we can do is we can put another point, say down here, and we can readjust and lighten those shadows a little bit by pulling up the curve. You can see how flexible and powerful this is. Now as well as controlling the overall exposure by working in the composite RGB channel, which is here, we can also make changes to the various channels, the red, the green and the blue channel. Now these channels allow us to change the primary colours as well as influence the complementary colours as well. So for example, let's choose the red channel. Now if we pull the curve up, we're adding more red. If we pull the curve down, we're adding the complementary to red, which is cyan. Again, let's try the green channel. Pull up for more green, down for more magenta. And finally the blue channel. Up for more blue and down for more yellow. Okay, I'll just reset all them now by clicking on the reset button to take us back to our original image. And we'll go back to RGB. Now there are some presets here. You can see here we've got 3. We've got linear, medium contrast and strong contrast. Now there doesn't seem to be any way of saving out your own preset, but there is. But first you've got to make an adjustment. Doesn't matter how small, we just make a little adjustment, custom appears. We have the ability to save out our own custom preset. Okay, I'll reset that again. Now there is also another curve which we can use, and that's a curve which has a little bit more of a safety net built in, and it's called a parametric curve, and you get it by clicking this little icon here. and I'm struggling to fit it all on. I'll just scroll it up a little bit. Now you'll notice that it opens up some sliders. Now these controls allow us to target certain areas of the image. Now if you see, if I hover over a slider head, a little white area opens up on the graph, and I can actually hover over the graph and those areas light up as well. And this is the extent of the adjustment I can make. So for instance, if I now say go in the middle of this light area and pull down, you'll see that I get to -100 at the bottom of that curve and plus at the top. So I can't go any further. I can't make any more dramatic adjustments than that light area allows. And if I move further down, you'll see that light area changes, but the same applies. I can only move there, and you can see now I'm affecting the darks in the image. So you can see it does have some limitations. So for example, up in this top area here, you can see we have some clipping. So if I get the light slider and drop it right down to -100, and we can try the highlights as well. You know, I've not really made a good adjustment, and I still haven't got rid of this clipping because I'm down at -100. So let's reset both of them. Now to solve this problem, I can swap back to the point curve by clicking this little icon here. And to get rid of this, all I need to do is make a really small adjustment to my white point. So I'm going to grab my white point and just take it down one little click. You can see how dramatic that is. All that disappears in one click. So the parametric curve is much less dramatic and more restrained than the point curve. Now all these adjustments are used in conjunction with any others you make in the develop module. They don't disappear if you go back to the basic panel, say, and refine things. Okay, well that brings us to the end of our chat about the tone curve in the develop module.